120 days. So a big corporation, a special interest, say you see where the Chinese hacked the Chamber of Commerce computer yesterday, was announced today. I mean, a great threat to our country. A Chinese corporation, under your provision, could give a president $1 billion, and they would own the president. The reason you have some limits with full disclosure is to keep within bounds a speed limit. You've got one on 293. It's 65 miles an hour. Some libertarians say no speed limit at all. Deaths go up, accidents go up, broad limits. And that's the way I would approach disclosure, full disclosure, and limits. Broad limits. $2,000, $2,500, open to everybody, but no corporation could come in the dead of night and give $1 million or $10 million. And that's a debate we've been having for some time. Here's what we have now, Rich. We have no limits and no disclosure. You now live in a country where everything is wide open, and you'll never know about it until you read my book sometime next year as I go to the White House to tell you how this campaign came down.
All right, Governor, I want to get back to this, though. If a Chinese bank gave a candidate for president $1 billion and there was instant disclosure, by the way, I think...
If there were instant disclosure...
We're talking about what it would look like if you were president.
Okay.
Now, doesn't that system become self-limiting?
It does.
Doesn't someone say, hey, listen, I don't want to look like you own me, so I'm not going to take your $1 billion. I'm not going to take $1 from you because you're a Chinese bank. Or, you know, let them... If Bill Gates wanted to give me, $100,000 to run for Congress, then I have to decide whether or not I want people to think I'm in Bill Gates' pocket because there's this $100,000 disclosed as a contribution. Doesn't the system at that point become self-limiting? Whereas Bill Gates...
It does.
Bill Gates...
With one exception.
Yeah, go ahead.
The threat of money. Obama, healthcare reform, he made a call to the pharmaceutical company lobbyists. This is fact. And he said, if you don't go against my bill, I will protect you in the bill from competition. And the deal was made at the White House. I talked to the man who made the deal. And I said, Billy, what decided it? He said, the threat of money. He did not want us out there spending money against his bill because he knew we could whip it. Now, if you have full disclosure, it's powerful. If you have broad limits with full disclosure, you keep from the abuse of one man making a difference in a bad bill.
All right, Governor, we're going to pick up the conversation about what you would do with campaign finance reform right after we check traffic, weather, and go to the news. David, how are those? And we're going to bring this. Segment to you for commercial-free this morning. Speaking of Goffstown, courtesy of our friend Bill Wynn at GoffstownToday.com. So if you want to know what's going on in the towns of Goffstown, New Boston, Dunbarton, and Ware, we'll even throw Bernardville in, because that actually cuts across into the city of Manchester too. You can go to GoffstownToday.com, because if they know about it, you should too. All right. So continuing with Governor Buddy Roemer, taking your calls at 647-1250. The staff around me here keeps flashing me signs. Say the phone number. Say the phone number. Governor Roemer wants your calls. 647-1250. We're talking campaign finance, and Governor, you've gotten 2 of the 7 points that you wanted to make about what you would do with campaign finance if you were in the position to do it.
Full disclosure, I think you and I agree, that's a good first step.
Yep.
We don't have that now. Number 2, I dislike PACs, and the reason I do is that you don't know who the individuals are who give, so they don't have full disclosure under the law. What I would do would be to equalize individual gifts and PAC gifts, and then I would not bother with PACs. Right now the law is $2,500 for individuals, $5,000 for PACs. Why is there that difference? Make them both $5,000 or both $2,500, but let's have equality there. Number 3, I would have 48-hour reporting. Current law is 120 days. Heck, the election can be over by the time you find out who's funding the mayor, who's funding the president. Where does he get his money? We need to know these things. It gives us a little security, and knowledge is a powerful thing. So I would have 48-hour reporting. In the age of the internet, we can do that. Number 4, I would not allow lobbyists who are registered in Washington. And to be a lobbyist, you have to register under the rules of the Congress. I have no problem with that. But I would not allow a registered lobbyist to bring a check to a politician or to participate in a fundraiser. Now, they're free. You can be a lobbyist or you can be a fundraiser. You can't be both. It's a positive step that we in Louisiana did years ago. It helped clean up our government. We were run by big oil and big chemical, and they were buying the legislature. We changed that. An additional change, I would not allow super PACs to exist. Let me tell your audience what a super PAC is. Under current law, a super PAC is an organization that is independent of a candidate, but they organize to influence an election. They can take their money from people or associations or corporations. Corporations are treated like people under super PACs. Do you know that you can't disclose where the super PAC gets its money? Do you know that the super PAC is not limited on how much money it can spend in a campaign or how much money it can take from a corporation or a person for that matter? Did you know that the only rule is that the super PAC must be independent of the candidate? Well, I'm asking you, is John Huntsman's father independent from John Huntsman? I mean, I know I was born. I just wasn't born yesterday. Do you know that Mitt Romney's super PACs are run by his former business partner, his former campaign manager, his former chief of staff? That's independent. Do you know Rick Perry has 7 super PACs? Newt Gingrich has 1. Ron Paul has 1. Michelle Obama, I know I'm giving them free airtime, but hell, it's a problem. They're illegal. Under the law, they must be independent. How do you police that? I don't think you can. They should be done away with. And finally, I would have criminal penalties for politicians who violate the law. Now let me say it again. I would have criminal penalties. Congress lives in Disneyland. It's a circus run by the clowns. They drive limousines. They never get challenged. They get reelected 96 times out of 100. There's no disclosure on inside dealing. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal yesterday which listed 8 congressmen and women who used insider information to make fortunes in trading stock, what the average person doesn't have. Here's my position on campaign reform. You do these 6 or 7 steps, and that's the beginning of a balanced budget. That's the beginning of tax reform. That's the beginning of comprehensive immigration reform. That's the beginning of fair trade with China. That's the beginning of jobs in America. It's real simple. The big boys own Congress, and they don't want new jobs. They want more profit.
Our large time is 8:42. We are with Governor Buddy Roemer from Louisiana, former Governor Buddy Roemer. He is a Republican candidate for president, and you probably haven't heard much about Governor Roemer, and we're happy to help you learn. So, Governor, given what you just said, we've tackled healthcare, we've tackled campaign finance reform. Now on to the issue of jobs in the economy, which I will tie in the federal budget. It always amuses me when people argue that, oh, we can't cut government spending now, the economy is just starting to recover. Well, if the economy is a function of government spending, why aren't we just...
Spending more.
Yeah, spending more. Where are you on the... all right, nobody wants higher taxes, nobody wants greater complexity, nobody wants more spending. We'll concede those points. So, Governor, you're elected president. What do you do?
I start with campaign reform. I go immediately then into tax reform and budget reform. You are right on target. These are critical steps to give certainty to the business investment in our economy. We need growth. We're not going to balance the budget without growth. Growth needs certainty. We need to stop these temporary tax fixes. I like a flat tax, as you know, Rich. I said it last time I was here. The reason I like it is that the lobbyists can't fool with it. It's 17%. The first $50,000 is income tax free for a family of 3. Income tax free. They still pay sales taxes where appropriate. They still pay property taxes. They pay plenty of taxes. They just don't pay federal income tax because they take care of their small family. Everything above that is at 17%. No double tax. No alternative minimum tax. No marriage penalty. Simple, clear, progressive. Here's the way it works. You make $100,000 in your family, you would pay 8.5%. You make $200,000 in your family, you would pay 10.5%. You make $500,000 in your family, you pay 14.5%.
And that's
the 17% with the deduction. That's the way it works, right?
Yep.
I'm trying not to confuse it. What you end up with is a very simple tax form, applicable to everybody. There are no exceptions, no deductions. A major corporation can't say, well, we're deducting our building cost in China, therefore we don't owe any American income tax. Baloney. GE would have to pay on income made in America. It's a territorial approach, very simple, very progressive, very fair, and would lower the rates marginally for most people. But it does 2 things that are not at first apparent. I would have a 2/3 vote requirement to raise taxes in Congress. Let me say it again, a 2/3 vote. I'm 68. I helped rewrite the Constitution of Louisiana almost 40 years ago, 1973. I put a provision in there that has worked very well for my state. I was chairman of the Revenue and Tax Committee. I put a provision that you could not raise taxes in Louisiana without a 2/3 vote of the legislature. And that stops a whole lot of baloney. So if you have a flat tax, a low marginal rate, no exemptions, no deduction. Now let me give you the bad news. That's no deduction for home interest. Okay? There's no mortgage deduction. There's no loophole for GE. There's no foreign tax credit. We clean it up. You'll end up paying fewer taxes, but you'll know 2 things. One, the lobbyists can't change it. It's a 2/3 vote. They can't get it. And number 2, everybody pays their fair share. Nobody, Buddy Roemer, a rich person, a new person, a big person, a corporate person, everybody pays a little, and we're all better off. That's called tax reform. You do campaign reform first, get the lobbyists out of the room, and then you go get a good tax form. The 3rd step, and I'll shut up for a minute, the 3rd step is budget reform. Our budget has a $1.35 trillion annual deficit. I've looked at the budget. I've actually read the budget before I ran for office a few months back. Obama's budget is a deficit no less than $500 billion a year for the next 10 years. This country's in trouble, Rich, and we need a systematic, multi-year approach. So I wouldn't do it 1 year at a time. I'm a multi-year guy. I'm a banker by training. I want to see a business plan for the business of our government. It's too large. At 26.1%, it ought to be 18%. I would reduce spending, and that's the key. Not taxes, spending. Spending's the problem. I would reduce spending by 1% of GDP, that's gross domestic product, a year for 5